Salud, amigos.
Greetings, friends, crew member of our beloved, polluted, and unique spacecraft, which, since the last time we met, has taken another turn about its imaginary axis and, of course, continues creating events in full development. And today, as it always happens, we're going to provide the information required about the Middle East. And the events taking place there are not becoming stable, and there are a lot of stakeholders there trying to continue with the situation because they have expansionist plans that violate every single resolution of the UN. Those resolutions that gave them a real republic, and this is how it happens. The one with the greatest lobby and power is the one winning often. So today we're going to speak about Syria, Jordan, just as the beginning of this, and not because it is not as serious and because human rights are respected in a connected world with internet everywhere. So the reality is very, very sad. So in this apparent calm, there's a lot of at stake. In front of us, we have the situation in the border between Syria and Jordan, and it is extremely tense.
Waves of refugees crossing the borders to Jordan. We have
Idran Tawi, political analyst of Jordan, stated, "We don't want to see new waves of refugees crossing to Jordan. We have enough. Secondly, we don't want to see any band of groups of terrorists in our territory. This is a red line. We don't want to see militias close to our borders, and this is also a threat." And then the interest is to keep the borders between the two countries open in order to continue with our business, as Lebanon is doing so with Syria. Soldiers with armored vehicles, very well armed, and they have all the appropriate gear for the events. Military vehicles are related to the events taking place right now. The event between Syria and Jordan have become even worse after they've recovered the southern governance of Daraa in June. The Jordan government has sent a great number of troops to this area in order to control the effect caused by the civil war in Syria. The border between the southeastern Syria and Jordan extends to 370 kilometers, where many of the cross points have been closed. Around 60,000 refugees from Syria who are homeless by now met in the places in the border areas that have been retrieved by the government at the end of June. The Jordan army has found many terrorists. China and the United Arab States agreed to create a strategic association. President of China, Xi Jinping, together with the guests that are part of the conference room of the Cooperation Forum China Arab States, CASAF, according to its acronym. We do not have the original audio right now, however, we do have the news, and we're going to share this with you. So this is the conference room, and people of very high positions representing all the geopolitical interests of this area, from China and almost reaching Europe. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia, bin Ahmed Al Jubeir, spoke with the Secretary General of the Arab League, and there were many bilateral talks here. And as of now, the fact that China is involved with this creates a very strong friendship, as well as a very appropriate condition. The Chinese president stated that China is ready to work with Arab states with this initiative, and with many of these initiatives for what this has been created. Mentioned as well that Arab countries are very good partners that share both joy and sadness. She stated that the initiative of the Belt and the Old Silk Route proposed by China has brought in a lot of support and the active participation of our countries as important participants and creators of the former civilization of the Silk Route. Then, Arab countries, natural partners of China, are in the middle of the so-called belt, according to Pin, and they're willing to take advantage of the situation. Building this route has promoted the relationship between China and the Arab countries in a comprehensive fashion, and its cooperation with new dimensions that is also in a new stage. And a lot has been achieved with this summit, based on the number and the representatives. Then he added, China and the Arab states should help each other for the creation of dreams to become young again with a focus of connectivity. Walter Sheikh the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia Al-Herb, and Ahmed Abu Ghait, Secretary of the Arab League, also provided their speeches in the opening session. And they welcome the friendship between China and the Arab countries, and there is a great potential for the cooperation between China and the region, and this has, of course, led to concerns in Washington. Arab countries are willing to build the Belt and Road. This is the Silk Route, and the old belt of these old routes proposed by President Xi to create a community of assured future. And of course, this makes sense with the members and the people attending this event. China is ready to take on the cost of a commercial trade war. So this is a challenge against Trump, who's still behaving as we already know how he behaves. This is the Forbidden City and the Avenue of Eternal Peace, the longest one in the world. What do we have here behind of the stereotypical China? A very modern country with a spatial technology that manufactures cars and state-of-the-art machinery, electronic products, machinery for development and demand, and as you can see, not only a human component, but also a great level of automatization of production. This is, of course, a concern for the president in the White House, and he is getting what he has, of course, created. People who are ready to welcome the most important guests. But Washington continues with its own agenda and its own goal. However, they're taking some turns that are too difficult for them, and they will inevitably pay a price if they start the biggest trade war in history. And the initial tariffs of the United States on China for $34 billion will have an impact on some Chinese companies and their employees. The Chinese government spoke about this, and that's why they didn't want to create a commercial war. The Ministry of Trade of China created the possibility of creating new policies to bring down the impact of the tariffs of the United States against China. And they include the assessment and the impact on different types of companies, use the income due to tariffs and the countermeasures of China. It is very important to keep on speaking about this. Since the last time we met, we have progressed widely. For aerial interconnection, of course, we have also progressed with the plans that are going to become concrete on this visit, so that Turkey Airlines can have an operational basis in Venezuela for all their operations in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we're very optimistic about this. We have also showed some progress with trade. We have multiplied the commercial balance that was almost inexistent. It was at some very low levels, but however, very fruitful. We have also progressed with gold, and we must see how much we can progress with investment for gold in Venezuela. Venezuela is certifying, dear brothers of Turkey, businessmen, businesswomen, Venezuela is progressing with the certification of what could be the first reserve of gold in the world. As stated by President Nicolas Maduro in Turkey, and now Trump states that immigrants should not go to the United States illegally. He said, well, I have a solution. Tell people not to come here illegally to our country. Don't come to our country illegally. Come here as other people do legally. He is interrupted by journalists.
Come legally.
Questions asked? This is very easy. We have laws, we have borders. Don't come to our country illegally. This is not good. He is no longer blonde. Now his hair is gray and he has a more discreet hairstyle. Is this due to the impact of the social media? Don't set your lives at risk. You don't belong here, and you have to do things right based on the law. So we need to support ICE and stop what Democrats are doing. Democrats want open borders, and they don't care about crime. He's a clear demagogue. We want borders, where borders mean something. Immediately, thank you. So that you realize that he's no longer blonde. Well, he's not wearing his very odd hairstyle. So he's exercising his power his own way because he bought it. He bought the best advisors and then said, okay, what am I missing in my life? Become a president. There he is with the lobby, and not everyone is in his favor. There are many problems open related to Trump, transgender people, for example. And here Bernie Sanders, the former candidate and current senator of the United States. And many people are reacting to all these weird ways of making politics.
Bernie Sanders, veterano, con muchas horas de vuelo en Washington.
Bernie Sanders, someone with a lot of experience. Listen, I'm not going to fool anyone. This is a difficult fight, but it's one that we can win. When 70% of the state supports us, when people support the protection of pre-existing rights, when people support the protection of the environment, the rights of the workers, we have the American people on our side. And now we need to go state by state to ensure that senators do what their voters want to do.
People support environmental protection and workers' rights.
Y luego, Mara Kieselin también tenía algo que decir ahí, porque estaban las personas transgénero.
Some other topics were also mentioned, transgender people, and some of them were considered taboo and not a part of politics. In order to ensure that senators do what the voters want. Transgender people will once again be a non-insurable pre-existing condition. Brett Kavanaugh has promised to stop the actions of Trump, and they are wrong. We're going to fight against him in each one of the steps of our way. And they welcome Cory Booker, senator in New Jersey, who's closer to them for this event. President Trump, you have told us what you want to do. You want to take away individual rights. You want to take away the rights of the people, of the workers, of the women, civil rights. But let me tell you right now, we will not take a step back. Demonstrators were sent to Blumenthal of Connecticut in the podium. They met outside the Supreme Court of Washington as a very significant spot. Task answered to the European Union, Trump respects the allies that you have, was what he quoted. The EU is reacting to the new president of the White House, Jean-Claude Juncker of the European Commission, with the NATO and Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary General, the Secretary of the President, signing the new cooperation agreement between NATO and other organizations of the EU. The agreement is signed. Donald Tusk said, Mr. President, undoubtedly, there can be some investment on defense, a common one for security. We cannot say this about the expenditure in China or Russia. So we have two remarks here. First of all, the United States appreciate their allies because, after all, they don't have so many. And Europe should use more money for their defense because it's always better to have an ally that is well prepared and equipped.
So there, Donald, and there, Jean-Claude, thank you for your personal commitment.
Thank you for your personal commitment. And Jens Stoltenberg, Secretary General of the NATO, stated, this new statement of our desire to deepen and widen our cooperation against an uncertain environment should help us work together to keep our nation and citizens secure. And that is exactly what we are doing. In the next months, we're going to intensify our cooperation for military mobility, which is essential for security and defense, and we're also going to work together for hybrid threats and to counter terrorism. Stoltenberg shaking hands with Tusk and Juncker as well. The President of the European Council mentioned President Donald Trump that he must take care of his allies. The forces of the government of South Sudan and their allies killed hundreds of civilians. This is the claim here.
At least 232.
The local office for the High Commissioner for Human Rights of the United Nations, Ravina Hamrasani, stated, between April 16th and May 24th, at least 232 civilians were killed and many more wounded in attacks of the government of the Allied forces, as well as armed youngsters in these valleys controlled by the opposition. And the report also documents the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war, with at least 120 women and kids raped or gang raped, including children of only 4 years of age. What a horror. A 21-year-old woman was already and still bleeding while she was staked after being raped. Brutal. Soldiers, military trucks, and people displaced within this camp. The Commissioner of the United Nations, with Ramida Shamandasi of the United Nations, representative of the United Nations, stated, the witness stated how people would go to the alleys in the middle of the night and start shooting civilians running. Attackers would steal cattle as well as steal houses and burn houses. Civilians were attacked, and also the elderly and people with disabilities, together with very young children who were killed in horrendous acts of crimes. Some of them hanged from trees and others then burned alive in their own homes. This is unimaginable. The High Commissioner for Human Rights of the United Nations, with Rabina Har, stated, the report documents acts that constitute abuse of international rights and the humanitarian right that can constitute war crimes. The investigation has also identified 3 people who may have the greatest responsibility on the violations committed. We request the government to stop every attack against civilians and start investigations. The authors of these acts against defenseless civilians, including the ones who have the responsibility of command, to do what they want.
There must be consequences for the men who reportedly gang raped a 6-year-old.
According to reports, a 6-year-old was gang raped and killed senior women because they resisted a sacking. Those who ordered and facilitated these horrendous crimes should be brought to justice. These are the headquarters of the United Nations in Europe. So, the last members of the Thai soccer team that were rescued arrived at the hospital in Gupta, Thailand. The ambulance bringing the coach enters the hospital. Members of the crowd including different people of the place and ambulances once again, and the reaction, of course.
A resident, Violeta
Grantantanpepa, mentioned, "I would like to thank every single member of Wild Boar. It was an accident, but it made them famous. And it was that tremendous operation was created to save these people in a place that is so far from our culture, but satellites set it as part of our day-to-day agenda. The best thing would be to avoid things like this from happening again. Ambulances bringing the members of the soccer team that were rescued from a flooded cave." I would like to thank every single member of White Bear. It was an accident, but it made them famous. So it was the cave where the soccer team and the coach were. Finally, everyone was able to be rescued. Rescue workers set the last 4 of the team free, as well as their coach on Tuesday. A successful ending in a very difficult and dangerous mission that took over the world for over 2 weeks. British divers were an important part of the rescue team, and they found the 13 members of the team below the ground with little oxygen and food. Here I would personally, and on behalf of my team, to greet the personnel that works in health of Cuba, in the Republic of Venezuela, that work in Caracas, and in also different parts of our latitudes. So I am urbi et orbi in order to provide this ceremony, but I will go back to our map to show that we are very close to this geographical family. Every single person of the comprehensive clinical center in Chao, Miranda, in the metropolitan area of Caracas, and Director Dr. Ronnie Mayedo, and with him every single person working with him. The solidarity there is exceptional. I would also like to wish the best to Dr. Angel Guinarriz, who today turns 66. May he continue doing so. He is not there with his family, but he is helping the ones who need it most but have the least. And I would also like to extend my greetings to the people of CIMEC and also the personnel of CIMEC in Havana and Dr. Castellano, as well as the chain of command that preceded him, the staff of Hospital Arnaldo Millán Castro of Santa Clara, and Dr. Isidoro Padilla Magdaleno. This is not enough. This is not enough to welcome all the resources that are given to our people with a state-of-the-art technology and free of cost. But it's impressive to see the number of cars, state-of-the-art cars. Those who would often seek assistance in different places also reach there. Here we have the statement of the Bolivian Army for Dossier. July 10, 2018, protocol activities, Alfa Bravo Simón Bolívar, Bajo 11, for the 30th training ship, Bella 2018, is at harbor in Port 7 in Balboa, Panama. Waiting for his turn for tomorrow is trying to cross the Panama Canal after all the paperwork and operations have been carried out, leaving the Pacific and reaching the Caribbean once again. I will show you where they are located as of now. They are here in Balboa. So after turning the Caribbean and the Atlantic through the South American continent and then reaching the Pacific Ocean, crossing the historic Panama Canal, an unforgettable experience. I've done that twice, and not as a tourist, of course. I've been in the pro, understanding how the canal works, and then they will return to our beloved country and Caribbean Sea. Crew members held different activities amongst them and act for the independence of the Republic of Argentina while they were making this turn in A la Libertad vessel of the Argentinian army. And the ceremony for the award of the Parliament of the City of Panama, as well as the protocol activities in A la Libertad, training ship of Argentina, and Cuauhtémoc, which is the training ship of the United States of Mexico. So Argentina and Mexico together with us. Our gate was open for the people in Balboa, Panama, and they brought in 4,294 visitors. Imagine the number. In the previous port, there were over 6,000 Navy glossary of broquelar, which is using the sails so that they can get the wind on the pro side. Alonso Hernandez, captain and officer of the guard, Antonio Mejia Ponte, captain of the Navy, and Marco Vacholandi, captain and manager of the operational activities of the Bolivarian Army. So, this is the statement that we have from the Bolivarian Army based on our Ambassador Without Borders. So now, we are going to once again show you the information and news around the world. So let's take a tour around our Earth with our map, because there's something very, very important. The Revolutionary Forces of Colombia, FARC, with the militia of Bogota, July 2018, joint statement. The guarantor of the signed agreements, well, if you don't deliver them, nothing will happen, according to Jorge Briceño. The militia work in the different places of Bogota, and we send our regards to the Colombian people, and we would like to let know that our armed fight is the only way to leave this crossroads, according to the statement that we received, where the back for peace of the Colombian people is clear. All this under a false peace procedure that is negotiated with the former members who sold their principles and betrayed the political principles, with Manuel Marulanda, Covarenas, as well as many others who offered their life to build the new Colombia. We are the militiamen and militia women, those who work in different parts of the Bolivarian movement, all of those who don't acknowledge the legitimacy or the way in which the peace process was carried out, those who today committed more than ever with the Bolivarian project and the legacy that we have, take the need to create a new Colombia according to the dreams of our comrades. We are not drug dealers or criminals, as they have accused us of. The media and the members of the former Secretariat have said the same. We are a revolutionary organization based on the Bolivarian principle for the creation of a new Colombia. So this is the statement mentioning today, just like 60 years ago, where people had to take arms to fight for their rights and to demand for a change as well as guarantees in order to carry out their policies, in order to stop stigmatization and criminalization. 60 years after this, we are forced to once again take over the weapons as the only guarantee for change. Once again, peace has been taken away from the Colombian people, imposing the war as the only way out. Today, we have to see how the directors of the organization sold and a false peace process, the dreams of over 54 years of struggle, without thinking about the thousands of comrades that gave their lives for their cause. Thousands of comrades have been betrayed, as well as their ideals and the revolutionary party of the FARC, by giving them to the enemy without thinking about what their fate would be. This for just some pesos and some positions in the government that they tried to get inside the party. The 10th conference showed the way in which The feeling of the militants was manipulated, as well as it happened in the Constitutional Congress of the country, that showed the internal division between the organization at the inside, carrying out sabotage activities in order to change their level of prestige. They got rid of their own prestige, and they showed the personal interest of the one-sided agreement for the collective interest of the group of the organization. Very strong words that is just in. This made things more serious, as well as the contradictions within the organization. This created two bands that were disputing the control, something that everyone knows what is. First, Timo Lozada, the one closest to negotiations, who have spoken about the dissidents, those who are against their position, and who have questioned the way in which decisions have been made inside the party, even working together with the enemy, providing them reports of the movements, name and actions of possible units that continue with the armed fight. Just like groups were created with the only objective of creating intelligence and stop the progress of another command at whatever price it could be. This all sponsored by military intelligence and the suspicious way in which some of these persons arrived at the directorate from one moment to the other, leaving behind thousands of dead. And this is just to mention some cases. Then we have the other side, Márquez and Trich, and they question what was decided in Cuba, as well as the way in which decisions had been made on the inside, without taking out any responsibility against the rest, because one of them was the one who said in many opportunities the ones who had continued in the armed fight had lost our north that was corrupted by drug trafficking, so we were forced to be combat against. If not, we would have rethought this. We weren't allowed to use the name of FARC, and then we would be just a branch, and they are the only ones who can use the name, not acknowledging those who help them unconditionally and who they owe their lives to. We are not going to speak for any of them. They're just as guilty for the situation that the movement is under today. They all signed the agreement, so they all have the same responsibility. Even though they try to avoid responsibilities, trying to be closer to the followers they still have. While some live a wealthy life with the things that peace brought to them, then the militia at the base need to go through all types of needs in the area, expecting for something that will never arrive. They are the same traitors, because you cannot call them differently. Those who, with the enemy and the media, have taken out the legitimacy of our fight. They call us killers, drug traffickers, who cannot occupy a public place, and also using any word that could be against us, take away the decision of continues with our armed fight, calling us dissidents and other names. You were the ones who betrayed the trust and ideals of the FARC's ideal. You were the ones who stopped with the FARC EP. You were the ones who betrayed the Colombian people, where you sold your soul for just some pesos. You were the ones who opened the door to bring in parasites that have taken away all the resources of the organization, individuals who only want personal wealth. So, the order for extradition of one of the members of the sides was accepted and created by one of the sides with the government for those who represent this in their plans. All this together with the election that took place on June 17th, where the right wing and the bourgeois of Colombia once again showed the power of their machinery when tricking consciousness and buying votes, showing that they have always been the ones who own power and who are not willing to let it go. Once again, condemning the people of Colombia for 4 more years of misery, making conditions even worse by opening the doors to transnational companies to exploit the resources that we defended with our blood for so long, and see how the budget for war increases, and our youth are the ones who need to be part of this army, where they only care about the bourgeois, and dignified housing as well as other fundamental rights are nothing but letters in a page of the political constitution that establishes that Colombia is a social state, which is simply rhetoric. And they have, first of all, public property and others, where the directors who choose the machinery for the traditional parties, and the law, where law only speaks and is applied to those who are poor, who will also be the slaves of the better candidate, where you don't work for living, but you live for working. This all under smoke curtain that hides the difficult situation of our country, as well as the creation of new militia groups in the areas abandoned by the people that are no longer in FARC, as well as the hard situation that social leaders and defendants of human rights are going through in our country, because apparently the only interest that the government had by signing the peace agreement for disarming the former structures of the guerrilla was to get rid of them eventually and give the country a concession for transnational companies, just like it has happened. It's not a secret what we are going through and what we are going to see with this government supporting the militia. So we are going to reactivate our work in the cities and the fields. So we call people in Colombia to join our efforts to go against a murdering state that once again has given the armed fight as the only possibility to look for a new Colombia. FARC-EP are people with weapons and will fight for the right of the people and the freedom of the Colombian population, as well as our sovereignty, environments, the mountains and city of Colombia. FARC, Army of the People. These are some very dramatic words. And we need to speak about this because we know that the media, they have certain interests to protect. But we thought that these had to be said. And now let's take a look about what else we have. We have some interesting characters that we need to identify and who we need to speak about. This is the same thing that we're speaking about. And what we have is adapted to this. Some of them are living large, some others are not. Stop killing social leaders. This was said by Ramiro Arango to Uribe. Remember the impact that this priest had after watching him here. I have been trained in Catholic schools where I've learned very important messages against the empire. I remember Padre Molas, who was in the war of Chaco against the oil companies. Remember this? Mr. Iván Duque.
El primero senador de la República y jefe
First Senator of the Republic
de la Organización Centro Democrático.
And boss of the Centro Democrático organization. And second,
de unos colombianos.
President of some Colombians. To you too, I am addressing today.
Con nombre propio.
I am calling you by name. My name is Father Ramiro Arango. I come from Cali. I live in Cali. But I was born in a small village called Roldanillo, so that you can identify myself.
Yo le envío este mensaje a ustedes.
I am sending you this message. To you too.
El uno, quien ha dirigido
the first of whom has directed the politics of the right wing of this country during the last years, with certain events that have been very serious, that have taken the lives of many, many Colombian brothers, And you have intensified this with your hatred, with your blatant hatred, the crisis of peace that as of today we're going through. I am a priest, but I'm a non-Roman priest. You should know about this. I'm a non-Roman priest. Don't address Fernando Londoño to attack again to the Archbishop of Cali, Monsignor Darío de Jesús. He is not my bishop, and I do not act under the command of my bishops. I do so with my own conscience. Listen, I think that you have a soul, but due to your actions, I think that you don't even have one. You, Mr. Álvaro Uribe, I beg of you, in the name of God, the God that you believe in and the one that you speak about with your own mouth, with your own word, with that God, the God of the army, the God of the poor, the God of the excluded, the God for those, either for action or omission, you allegedly have killed. I know that right now, by telling one person that for me is the most dangerous human being in the whole planet, not only my country, but the whole planet, the person who has hurt the country the most, the poor, the humble, the most corrupt government, the one with the false positive, and they're not lies, and also with a very likely confirmation, and I say possibly because of the legal possibilities they could bring, because you are the one managing justice, possibly the organization of criminal groups that today are killing brothers and sisters of ours in Colombia, indigenous people, activists of social groups, defendants of human rights, leaders of black communities, social leaders, those who you kill. I don't know if they do so under your command. However, your silence cannot allow me to trust you and think that maybe it is indeed. You are such a coward, that unfortunately, yes, you had an accident. And that same day, the dark forces that have always been together with your actions and the senators and representatives that you work with, the House for senators and representatives of yours have been quiet about. And when you don't say anything about an international event as this, it is likely because you are an accomplice. And I urge you, in the name of God, one day you will be in front of the court of Christ. And Jesus will take a long time with your trial. A trial for someone as evil as you. Someone who has created so much evil as you have. I urge you to repent. And the best gesture that you can have with the country and with your puppet as well, for that poor man who doesn't know what he is into by the real boss, so that this poor man can also have peace in his conscience by exercising the government for 10,003,000 Colombians without the ones who had to vote out of fear under the same threat that we have today, however, local threats. And by discarding your victims, the victims of your lies and of your deceit. This leaves only around 5 million left. 5 million citizens. Not all of them have the same reality as you. Some of them are good people. People believe in you. People who have trusted you. You are nothing but a bunch of lies. As my grandfather used to say, you are the paisa, the one who is willing to kill a baby. You're an infamous person, Mr. Uribe. I will never call you honorable senator because you're not worth of this title. There are very few honorable people there. There are some, but very few of them. And of course, they are not part of Centro Democrático, of Partido Radical, of the Conservative Party either, or the liberal hegemony of the Gaviria. I urge you, now, stop murdering social leaders, syndicate leaders, indigenous leaders, black leaders. Stop killing people from LGBTI movements and everyone who's excluded as well. I know that this is the end of my life. You have no problem killing people. I think it's easy for you to do so. And I think that for you, it's very easy to kill priests or to send them to be killed. Do so. But I'm here. I am here showing my face. You will be able to silence my voice. Your sidekicks will do so. However, I am not afraid because I am happy. Because my voice, the voice that today you are hearing, that you are, Álvaro, and you, Iván, are hearing as well, it's going to torture you for the rest of your life. Stop, or we will continue. We will take over the streets. We will not be afraid. We will go out there, and we will consolidate a country of social justice. Tomorrow, it's a new morning, but people, thieves like you, they often fall in their own traps. The international community is just getting to know the things that you have done. Yesterday, Adriana España, leader of Jarrillón in River Cauca, in Brisas del Cauca sector, who was pregnant, was beaten brutally by the forces of the Colombian state. She is right now under the law for defending herself of a police action, something that's very common in Colombia, where the national police has lost their north and have also degraded, where there are militiamen, very likely, as there are others in the army, very likely. And you know what I mean when I say likely. So please, freedom for Adriana. I'm not asking, I am demanding, not only myself, but also Cali and the popular sectors, immediate freedom for Adriana. There it is. Álvaro Uribe and Iván Duque, this is for you. And let me tell you, we will not give in. We are all in. I am all in as well, You will not take another step. And let me tell you once again, not another death. Don't be a crook. You're a crook, Mr. Uribe. May God have mercy on your soul. And how sad might it be for your children. So may God also have mercy on their souls. Because unfortunately, when you are as evil as you are, oh my God, what an horror. If you can, have a good evening. I am Father Ramiro Arango. I'm a Catholic Guadalupean priest. And I'm at your disposal. At the disposal of any possible orders that could be sent from your sidekicks and from the other people that work with you in the militia sectors of the country. Thank you very much.
Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Vox Populi, Vox Dei. What happens when, for instance, they want a teacher to be silent and to move? Listen, I want you to tell me something. I feel this as a threat, and I don't understand why. We are not threatening you. We're just warning you that we're going to provide you a statement and to pay attention to this and to be extremely reserved about this. So, okay, but don't raise your voice. I am not your maid. Listen, lady. Take your things and leave the region. I'm not going to justify how things I have. What have I done? Is working something bad? Creating a school? Is this bad? I don't see the problem here. Listen, lady, don't speak to me like that if you don't want to be that. Okay? This is just a statement. And you're going to say whatever you want. Don't. If you're going to do so, I am so sorry, because you'll have to leave this region, or I will murder you. You know that here we kill whoever we want. Is this understood? So please send your communicate. No, no, no. No, teacher, don't say this. Don't speak like that. Just do me a favor and leave the region. I'm letting you know, and letting the people know today, that if you stay in the region, you are going to die because you have been rude. And even if you're a teacher, you are rude. Listen, you're threatening me. What do you want me to say? I've suffered a lot. I don't care what have you been through. I don't care. I don't care what the war has done for you. I don't care about that. This is just a statement, and you are rude, so immediately, because you're rude, you either leave the region or you will be a military objective, okay? So I will tell my superiors, you will continue working. If not, leave, okay? So this is how things are. Who do you think you're speaking to? A clown? Well, that's very, very sorry, because you are speaking nonsense. Oh, so you think I'm speaking nonsense? First, how do you think I know is telling me the reality? I was nice to you, I was polite, and then you start saying things. Listen, please, do me a favor. Take every single thing you have and leave the region, okay? Okay? If you have to kill her, kill her. Álvaro Uribe Vélez, verified account at Álvaro Uribe Vélez. 8 years of weakening security, murder of social leaders, generalized extortion, terrorist corruption, imposing Santos' re-election. That's why we trust Iván Duque's government to start on August 7th. So this is quoted, as you can just see. This is another tweet. Democratic security reduced the murder of syndicate leaders of almost 200 in some years to 14. I think that 14 is a good number for them. We wanted to have 0 cases, and then instead of having 1 sentence, we have 200. Confirmed. Washington researchers state that the farm of Álvaro Uribe was used by the militia. It was the basis for operations in the 90s, according to the Center of Independence Activities. This archive is located in Washington. NSA quotes former workers of the farm that were questioned after Santiago Uribe was arrested due to a crime of militia members, provided a list with the former workers of the farm. Álvaro and Santiago Uribe allegedly had a relationship of friendship with Osorio Rojas, a former employee quoted by NSA, mentioned they were very good friends and had a very good rapport with the leader called Rodrigo El Mono. And the worker, whose identity isn't shown, was Santiago. Okay, so I think that this is enough, just for you to understand how things are happening in some places so close to where we are in our contaminated, beloved, and unique spacecraft. And it's clear why 6 million Colombians come here and live in Venezuela, because they have a very dangerous republic, which is a terrible example for them. Well, and these are the things happening. So if God allows, we'll be back tomorrow after our beloved, polluted, and unique had taken another turn about its intermediary accident. We'll be here again to tell you the short story of the next 24 hours. This is the reality. We have to face it. These are documents that are, of course, proven in their source, and now you have, in your own conscious decision, to provide your opinion and act. From Studio 3 of Venezuela Televisión, the pioneering channel of Venezuelan TV, air of TVN 5 in Charneca. Other times, 1970. Here I close Dossier. The #1 show in the rating, according to the private sector, for international analysis. And we're honored by this, because without you, wherever you may be in the motherland, we wouldn't have this such important support to do the things that we must do in a Christian and truthful journalism. So this was Walter Martinez, producer and host, and we will meet again tomorrow after our beloved, polluted, and unique takes another turn about its intermediary access. In the meantime, thank you for allowing us to be there with you. Director, the floor is all yours.